First Kings chapter 13. So at the instruction of the Lord, a prophet of God went to Jeroboam at his altar in Bethel while he was offering sacrifices. The man of God prophesied against Jeroboam, saying that one day God will raise up a man named Josiah who would defile Jeroboam's unholy altars by burning human bones on them, a prophecy that's fulfilled in 2 Kings chapter 23. When Jeroboam tried to have the prophet arrested, his hand was miraculously dried up by God, and the altar was torn apart. And Jeroboam begged the prophet to pray for him. The prophet did, and Jeroboam's hand was fixed. And then Jeroboam invited the prophet to his house to eat, but the prophet rejected his invitation because God forbid him from eating or drinking with anyone. Now there was also an old prophet who lived in Bethel, and when he heard about the events that happened at Jeroboam's altar, he set out to find the younger prophet. And when he found him sitting under an oak tree, he invited him to his house to eat. But the younger prophet refused for the same reason that he refused Jeroboam's invitation. So the old prophet thought up a lie, telling the young prophet that an angel spoke to him and told him to invite him. And the young prophet believed him and went with him to his house. And as they sat at the table, the word of the Lord came to the older prophet, and he told the younger prophet that because he had disobeyed the word of the Lord, that his body would not come back to the tomb of his fathers. And after they had eaten, the younger prophet mounted his donkey, but as he journeyed home, he was attacked and killed by a lion for disobeying God. Now the lion didn't eat him, but stood by his body on the road, along with the donkey. And when the old prophet found out what had happened, he went to recover the body, mourn over it, and buried it. And he put the body in his own tomb and asked for his family to bury him with the young prophet when he died. After this experience, Jeroboam didn't repent, and he continued down his path of sin and appointed more priests at the high places, further distorting the worship of God. What we can learn from this chapter is that sometimes temptations come from places you don't expect. The young prophet was on his guard when talking to Jeroboam. He wasn't going to break God's instructions by accepting Jeroboam's invitation, but he let his guard down when the old prophet approached him and invited him to his home. Even though he had been given clear instructions from God, he put more trust in another prophet than in God. He assumed that he could trust a fellow prophet, but he was wrong, and this disobedience led to his death. We must always be on guard and on the lookout for temptation. We can't afford to let our guard down in a world with so many dangers. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8 says, "Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." Jesus is coming back very soon. I love you. God bless you. 1 Kings chapter 14. Jeroboam's son Abijah fell very ill, so Jeroboam told his wife to disguise herself and take a gift to the prophet Ahijah and asked him what would happen to their son. Ahijah couldn't see very well due to his old age, but God revealed the identity of his visitor to him beforehand. He told her that he had unbearable news for her about her son and about her husband's kingdom. Since Jeroboam promoted idol worship and turned away from God, God was going to turn away from him and bring harm to him. God cursed Jeroboam's house, telling him that his relatives who died in the cities would be eaten by dogs, and his relatives who died in the country would be eaten by birds. Only Jeroboam's sixth son will receive a proper burial, and he would die as soon as Jeroboam's wife entered the city. Ahijah also prophesied that the nation of Israel would be uprooted from their land and scattered, a prophecy that we see is fulfilled in 2 Kings chapter 17. Jeroboam's wife returned to Tirzah, and her child died just as Ahijah had said. A record of the acts of Jeroboam were recorded in the book of Chronicles of the Kings of Israel, and he died after reigning 22 years and was replaced by his son Nadab. Now Rehoboam became king of Judah at 41 years and reigned for 17 years. Judah was ungodly under Rehoboam's leadership. They worshipped idols and acted like the pagan nations that Joshua had driven out of the land. In Rehoboam's 5th year, Shishak, the king of Egypt, plundered Jerusalem, taking all the treasures in the temple and in the king's houses that Solomon built, and the 500 gold shields that he made. And Rehoboam remade new shields out of bronze. But during both of their reigns, there was continual war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam, and Rehoboam died and was buried in Jerusalem. It's really metaphorical, the plundering of Solomon's golden shields and the withdrawal of God's shield of protection of Judah. This should warn everyone that anything, no matter how great in the past, is vulnerable to instant collapse when they walk away from God. Judah fell from world prominence in one generation. Remember, they were so prosperous that silver was considered nothing because it was so common. Don't foolishly believe that God lacks the tools to repeat the pattern in this modern day. It's better to repent of sin in humility than to keep up appearances out of pride. Rehoboam tried to keep up an appearance of success by recreating the stolen gold shields. His lesser bronze shields may have fooled some people, but he would have been better off repenting and turning back to God. And the same is true for us. If you've sinned, confess it and seek God's forgiveness. Don't try to cover it up just to keep up appearances with church people. Thank you and God bless you.